Well, you can't give up. That's one thing. Whatever happens in your life, you have to continue to keep going and keep striving. You don't give up. You keep your head up. You stay focused. It's going to be ups and downs throughout your whole life. So you try to do everything you can to look at the positive sides of it. It's a struggle. It's a reason for it. So you have to continue to keep striving.
Hi, and welcome back to our next episode of the Forging Excellence Show. I'm Christine Kawai. He's Mark Smith, and today we are very excited to have a special tribute episode to our dear friend Earl Cureton. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I mean, it's bittersweet, right? Love the fact that we get to talk about such a great man. But again, very sad that we do not have him with us any longer. But you know what? Today, here's what we get to do. We get to hear from a lot of his buddies, a lot of guys that really loved who he was. Maybe tell some stories about him and share the love and the big heart that Earl had for this world.
So I will share my story soon, but I don't even know this story. How did you first meet Earl?
You know what? I think good people find good people. And Earl is one of those guys that's friends with about 10 of my friends. And, we hooked up one day and I let him know what we're doing for the community, what we're doing with sports facilities. He was immediately all over it. And he asked, how can I help? What can I do? How do I get involved? And yeah, it was from there, it was just great. He became a big part of what we do. And, sadly, I wish he got to see our facilities and the kids who enjoy them. But hey, I think in spirit, he's there.
Oh, absolutely. And, for me, my first interaction with Earl was at the airport as we were flying out to an event. And, I instantly felt like I had known him forever and he treated me the same. He was easy to spot on the plane because he was so tall. But even at dinner that first night, I was kind of making fun a little bit because he was sitting across the table from me. And I told him that he lucked out that I was across the table from him because I'm all of 5'4". So I was like, you get all the leg room in the world that you need right
Yeah.
now. But just one of the kindest hearts. And I felt like, the person that he was for me, that's just how he was with everybody. And I felt so proud that I got to, I literally texted my dad and was like, hey, guess who? Guess who I'm having dinner with? And it was just great to be able to spend that time with him. And you mentioned, wishing that he could see these facilities open, the kids that coming in, the community. I have been blown away at the amount of work that he has done to give back to the community throughout his life.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you see a guy who's really committed his post NBA career to helping communities, right? Helping kids. I think he's a guy who's always available. And, I think U of D appreciates everything they did, that he's done for them. They retired his number not long ago. But what a great guy. He's helped out so many people. And you know what? You see that too. You hear a lot of the stories from people as you talk about it, right? Ever since February, when he left this world. But I'll tell you the great thing is if people haven't had a chance yet, if they want to get to know Earl better and know what a great man he was, what a competitor, what a fierce friend he was, I think people need to pick up the book and check it out. It was a book that came out maybe I don't know, maybe 6 months before he passed, and it is so worth it and so insightful. It's phenomenal.
I have read the book myself. Thank you for sending me that
Yeah.
book. And, I just to appreciate the man more than I already did and to know more of that story. And I think we should give away a copy of the book. Do
Yeah,
you?
we'll give away one of these. Not mine though. I'm
Perfect.
I'm keeping my
Yeah.
copy.
Of
Yeah, we'll
course.
we'll send you one from Amazon. But yeah, Earl the Twirl. It's it's phenomenal. It's just a great thing about a guy coming up. I love to hear you were talking about dinner time, and I love to hear Earl talk about these stories over dinner. Right, great guy. Anytime he'd call you, right, you're in for an hour-long conversation. But he's just a great guy, and he'd tell you all these stories and really put the magic into the stories. And what a great teller of tales. And it's so cool. But he does that in the book here. He does a really nice job. So yeah, let's definitely share some of those. Heck, we'll pick a few people
Yeah, we'll have some in the description. We'll have some more information
Yeah,
about how you can enter to win a copy of Earl's book.
I love it.
And as I was going through just all those stories, so, on that trip that when I first met Earl, I was working on a presentation that he was so thankful to be a part of. And as I was thinking of the slides, of course, that's always like, what am I going to put here? And,
Yeah.
everyone's not always a public speaker. And I knew without a doubt that if I just put one picture on a slide, he would be able to truly speak from the heart, which he absolutely did. And that was putting a picture of St. Cecilia's
Oh
where
yeah. Ooh.
he, came up through. And it was like magic. As soon as he clicked over to that slide and saw that building, he instantly knew what to say and how to convey that message of the importance that a place like that had in his life, and the fact that, so many years, decades since he, first walked in those doors, to still have such a place in his heart. And I feel like his story is going to have a similar impact for others. That, we talk about legacy so
Yeah,
much,
yeah.
and what does a legacy mean? And I think through his family, through the work that he's done, through our facilities that we're able to put up, that legacy will always continue to live on.
I think so. I think it's great to hear when he talks about Saint Cecilia's. He is such a staunch supporter, right? He's done all he can for that Saint Cecilia's campus, and I mean, would always anytime you talk to him, he's always talk about it. But it was great to hear all the guys that came through there, right? Like Dave Bing and George Gervin, Derrick Coleman, right? All these great guys out of Detroit, and it was kind of a proving ground. So for those people who don't know Saint Cecilia's, think about a lot of NBA stars going at each other, like hardcore at each other in a small court, so small that one of the touch lines is a wall, right? That's how small it is. So this is not a huge area, but it's enough to get your sweat on, prove your game, see if you're worth it.
I love it. And so as we, continue to talk about Earl and talk about legacy, what legacy do you think, when you think of Earl, like what
Yeah.
are those first words that come to mind, and that legacy that he has kind of imprinted on you that you can see living on through our facilities?
You know what? Here's what I love. Anytime we talk, it's I think when we talk about really when we look at it, it's a business, right? Of putting up facilities and doing that. We can look at it as a real estate business, as a franchise model, call it whatever you want. But I think the way Earl looked at it is what are we doing for the community? And that's really what it's all about. And he had such a profound thing, and it echoes through my mind all the time, is he said, every child deserves a facility like this, right? And deserves the ability to walk through the door, but the door has to be there in their community. And that's what we're all about. So that's why I think we're so adamant about being, having so many of these throughout the nation, is just giving a lot of kids the opportunity to do that. Right. When we look at demand of what's needed in communities, we look at affluent communities in Michigan, right? North Carolina, Florida, Georgia. You can look all around. They lack a lot of these facilities. So kids can go outside and maybe find a park occasionally. Otherwise, you might turn to something else and go, I can't play sports. I can't find that. I'm going to go do this. Right. And it's kind of what Herman says, right? Having these around really changes the trajectory of a child's life. And that echoes through my mind a lot. I go through it, but I think when I think of his legacy, he's done something that so many people cannot, right? And have not done. You could be a great player on the court. You could be your best throughout elementary and middle school and high school. You could be one of the best guys in college. You could be one of the best guys on your team. At the end of the day, their stats, right? Your legacy is truly plays out with what you've done for your community and what you've left behind. I think Earl has left a world behind.
No, absolutely. And it's funny. So I am someone who doesn't believe in coincidences. Like if something has crossed my path, or, I feel like it is there for a reason, or, there's some, bigger thread that is pulling everything through. And, I am not too much of a social media user, but every once in a while I'll kind of peek in, mainly just to see what some of my friends have been up to and kind of do a little mental checkup of, oh, hey, like, I mean, it'll be so long sometimes. I'm like, oh, you have a new child, like
Yeah.
this whole new person.
Yeah.
But not that long ago, I'd say within the last month or so, just kind of scrolling through Facebook, and someone that I went to high school with, she has 4 kids, and one of them at some, whether it was during the summer, so I'm assuming a camp, something like that. And she was like posting a picture, and her kid was the proud recipient of a Earl Cureton award
Yeah.
for, I believe it was best teammate. And it was one of those things that, of course, I'm not expecting to see his name in, yes, I'm just kind of scrolling through and catching up. And this is a friend that, besides the polite, like a status if,
Right.
a big
Yeah.
life event has happened, but we're not, talking to each other every night. But it just made me smile, and it warmed my heart so much to, first of all, just see his name continuing to be out there, always associated with
Yeah.
such positivity, still out there in the community, and just seeing how proud she was, and having that pride of, you've done something good, and how are people recognizing when someone has done something good. I mean, taking this man who was the epitome of what good is,
Yeah.
not just as a teammate,
Yeah.
but just as a human being in general, as a father, as a
Yeah.
husband, as a member of our community. And it made me, first of all, feel even more proud that I've actually, was able to have some FaceTime with him, but also it felt just like a little smile from above of, he will always be there.
Yeah.
And that to me is what a legacy means, and what I hope mine is, where people can look back with a smile and always associated with positivity. I had to laugh when I was looking at some pictures for a presentation and just trying to find helpful, people doing good in the community through sports. And of course, being in Detroit and finding pictures locally, it was almost turned into like a Where's Waldo, but instead it was like, where's Earl? Every
Yeah.
picture that, and I wasn't even necessarily searching like just basketball, but I'm like, oh wait,
Yeah.
there's Earl in the back over there. There's Earl in the back
Everywhere.
over
Yeah.
there. And it really drove home for me how big a part of the community he truly
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. He's huge, and it's great to see, because, you'll see, video all the time that'll pop up. That'll be him, at a camp or a clinic, right? Helping kids out, right? Taking a little shot, and just really, I think the great thing when he does that, it's not like he just shows up, takes a shot, smiles for the camera, and leaves. He is there for hours and hours, and he is so deeply involved, and he connects with not only the kids, but the families who are there, right? The moms and dads, which is great. Grandma who's hanging around. It's great to see. And I'll tell you, great man. And I love the fact that somebody has an award named after Earl. I think we all need that, right? If you were to get the Earl Cureton Award, you've done something really, really good for your team.
Absolutely. And it goes to show that, if we think basketball, we can think of, Michael Jordan's and Kobe Bryant's, and these, that every person who's not even necessarily a basketball fan
Yeah.
is going to be familiar with those names. But I feel like someone like Earl can really make that imprint, as well as, not just what happened during his playing days, but how he lived his life and what that meant. Because I wish it was more common than it is these days sometimes, but to have someone truly just doing it for the good, like for the greater good, for, he wasn't looking for all the little stars on his
No,
shoulder
yeah.
or all the accolades.
Yeah.
He did it because he wanted to do
Yeah.
it. And that is the type of, besides just man he was, I think that is the story that, that's why I'm proud that we have this platform that we're able to share more stories of those that have known him, whether they were playing on the same team together or how they came across each other,
Yeah.
that he really did leave such a huge mark on everyone's lives.
Yeah, he's incredible. It makes me think, like we always talk about, there's always the debate of who's the GOAT, right? Is it Jordan? Is it Kobe? Is it LeBron? Is it, whoever? But it's neat to see when you look at stats, you look at championships there, we could debate all week long about who's the greatest. But I think a really great debate would be who's done the most for their communities, right? There are a lot of generous people out there who really take no credit, right?
Yeah.
And I think you've got communities of kids and community members who know this name and know that it's, this is somebody who has benefited them, has given them opportunities that others haven't, and has really changed their lives. I would love to see that list because I know Earl would be right at the top of that.
So, as we've shared our stories about Earl, I would love to hear some other stories as well. And I know one person that is so excited to be able to talk about Earl more is Kurt David. So, Mark, how did you meet Kurt?
Yeah, Kurt's a great guy. Kurt and I have been friends for a long time, but you talk about a gentle giant and somebody who, as well, right, was a professional on the court. Played his ball in Europe, which is great. But he and Earl got to be really good friends, and we'd hang out together. And it was funny because you got to see them both together at the airport, right? Yeah. So,
I felt about this
right.
about 2 inches tall.
Yeah.
But
It's great. But I'll tell you, when you look at two birds of a feather, right? That is it. Kurt is a phenomenal guy. And I know he wanted to come on and say a few words about our dear friend Earl as well.
Hey, I'm Kurt David, and I first became friends with Earl Cureton back in 2012 when he was a guest on my TV show From Glory Days. We laughed right away because of our similar size and height and even shoe size. And what I was really impressed with Earl at that time was he had just finished his degree after 30 years, went back to college and finished his degree. He promised his mother that he'd go back and finish his degree. He also told me that how could he talk to youth and young people about the importance of education if he didn't follow it himself and take his own advice? I also remember during that time he was kind of searching, trying to figure out his next step in his life and was trying to figure out whether he was going to be coaching or TV broadcasting, which he absolutely loved. He ended up getting picked up by the Phoenix Mercury down there in a WNBA, coaching Brittany Griner and some other greats as well during that time. And then got a call from the Pistons, was excited to come back to Detroit and be a community relations person for the Pistons. He and I spent many days at the Palace at those Pistons games, often laughing about what a life it was that he was living, and it was hard work and always having to have his game on and smile and meeting people. But he really enjoyed it and meeting people. I was kind of bummed out when they moved to Little Caesars Arena because he called me up one time. He says, "Kurt, I can't get your tickets anymore. We're just tenants. We don't own the arena anymore." And so I was kind of disappointed about that. Probably one of the biggest impressions I had during our friendship was when I was hospitalized for 5 days with a septic infection, in and out of consciousness. And during that time, I remember Earl came over a couple times to visit me, and it meant a lot to me and my family, and for him to show up there and just kind of support and encourage my wife and myself that I'd get through this. It just kind of showed what kind of a friend he was, and really what a value he was to people, and what he was to me at that time as well. His last year, he was very excited about his upcoming book and about writing the book. We often talked about writing a book and the process, and he was really excited. And unfortunately, right before his passing, the book came out, and he just started promoting it. In a funny way, the passing of Earl Cureton saved my life. For you see, during that time, I thought what I had was simply heartburn. I literally thought it was just heartburn for weeks, and found out that I had 3 major blockages in my arteries in my heart. Well, having seen what happened to Earl, it caused me to take my condition much more serious. And as a result, I believe that I took it serious because of Earl's passing. So in a funny way, he kind of saved my life, that I was able to get the intervention that I needed at that time with those 3 major blockages after seeing what happened to Earl. I miss Earl's spontaneous phone calls, the candid conversations about parenting daughters, and his genuine desire to help others. You could see that every day of his life. I miss you, Earl, and look forward to seeing you again someday.
Kurt, thank you so much for being a part of our tribute to Earl. Your words truly touched my heart, and Mark, I'm sure the same. And let's keep this ball rolling. So, besides now talking about someone that got to spend some time playing with Earl, and something that really touched my heart is not just seeing him as a teammate, but someone that truly became family. We
Yeah.
are so lucky to be joined by Muggsy Bogues.
Yeah, Muggsy's definitely a guy. When you look at somebody who has had to really work his tail off and get into the league, I mean, it's probably not any different if you're 6'9" and trying to get into the league. I mean, you still gotta, compete. You got to go after it. But when you have somebody of Muggsy's stature, I tell you, a guy with a huge heart, somebody who makes his teammates look good, and somebody who really bonded with Earl and became family very quickly. And I think because they share that, they want to be the best teammates, they want to be the best people they can be, and do the most for their community.
All right, Muggsy, thank you so much for joining us today. We are absolutely delighted that you are able to share some stories about Earl and how did he become, not just a teammate, but someone that you really considered to be family.
Well, first and foremost, thank you guys for having me. I mean, this is such a special occasion, a special moment to talk about my guy, Earl the Twirl Cureton. Earl and I became friends when we both joined the Charlotte Hornets in 1988, the expansion draft. And when we came in, for some odd reason, we just gravitated to one another. We both underdogs. We both worked extremely hard. And I think we see each other in that regards. And the position that we played, he was receiving a lot of assists from my passes on that end.
Yeah.
So he really loved a guy that who can pass him the ball to make him look good. But again, we just had our personalities match. I mean, we was very close amongst our families. He was married at the time, and I wasn't, and we shared so many thoughts in that regards. And then I went on and got married, and he became, part of my wedding. He came to the wedding, and um, in his Detroit outfit, as he always would call Mobile. So I mean, it was such a joy knowing that I had a good friend and
Yeah.
someone that really cared about me and cared about my family over the years. And from that moment, I mean, we was inseparable. I mean, even when we stopped becoming teammates, we always checked on one another. And in the last 4 or 5 years, I mean, we talked with one another each day. I mean, it literally every day that I spoke with Earl and where we just always caught up to let each other know what was going on with our day before it all ended.
And that's great. You look at something like that, whenever you get a call from Earl, you knew exactly what was going on. You knew he's got something to tell you, right? And he would take his time telling you.
Oh yes, and there's always a story. I mean, Earl, for whatever reason, he know how to tell a story, and he has
He
so many
does.
of them.
Yeah.
And he was
Yeah.
just like an elephant. I mean, never forget anything.
Yeah.
He really can tell a story. I mean, he will bring you all the way back from the days that when he was in high school, and how he was. Yeah, uh, just trying to, no one gave him a chance. No one believed, the type of player he was and how he worked extremely hard. And people don't realize how good Earl was back then. He was not only just a rebounder, Earl was putting up buckets.
Oh
He
yeah.
was going with the best of them out there. He always tell a story, especially when he was at Detroit Mercer with all his boys, with Tyler and those boys, and John Long. Those was his crew,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
he forever telling those type of stories how impactful they were back on those days at the Detroit Mercy, and how he was able to get drafted from that moment, and based on his experience and playing from them. And I just marveled off all the stories that he had to tell.
Yeah. You know what? I love hearing when he talk about St. Cece's and everybody who'd come through there. Oh man. Did you ever get a chance to play with him there?
I never got a chance to play with him there,
Oh.
but I tell you, that was close to his heart. Saint City
Hmm.
was something that he was truly um, an advocate for in terms of making it getting back to his original roots. He made sure that everybody knew about Saint City, no matter if you lived there or not.
Yeah.
He talked about all the historic moments that all the players that came through there, from Iceman Gervin, from Derrick Coleman all the way up from the Chris Webbers. I mean, he just from the Jalen Rose. He just continued to lay all those stories out, um, and you just marveled at how many great players came through Detroit. I mean, you didn't realize how many players came through Detroit, but Earl let you know who all
Yeah. Yeah.
and he kept like I said, he kept that encyclopedia in his mind and knew exactly the impact that those players had. I mean, from the early ages, from his era all the way up until today's era. I mean, he knew about each and every player that came through Detroit, Michigan, and he always honored those and gave them their roses.
You're exactly right. It's awesome. And I'll tell you, what I love too is not only would he kind of really talk up those from Detroit, but I'll tell you, he left this legacy of really helping the kids around Detroit. His heart, I'll tell you, is what a great, impactful man.
And I was asking him, and I always said, well, I mean, how can you be at so many places at one time? And because he's constantly, he gets a call. He always say, "I got a call, and I'm gonna go down here and speak on behalf of this organization. They doing this, and it's nothing that's getting a lot of attention, no media attention. He just does it from his heart. I mean, he just loved to lend his time for a great cause. Anything that's involving the youth, he want to make sure that he's part of to uplift them, to send that message, to knowing that you can be the best version of yourself, no matter who you are, where you come from. No excuses. You're capable of becoming very successful. Is all the matter of you putting your mind to it. And he believed in that wholeheartedly, and he lived his life that way. That's one of the reasons why I love him to this day.
I love it.
Yeah, when I first met Earl, it was actually at the airport as we were on our way to an event. And instantly he treated me as if, we had known each other, my whole life. And just one of the kindest human beings and so fun to be around too. Do you have any kind of like a fun little story that when you think back with a smile of, Earl being Earl?
I mean, Earl always been Earl. I mean, it was just so many moments of him. I mean, stories is just endlessly. But we was in Cabo. We always used to take a trip to Cabo, here in quite a few of our friends, and we have a friend of ours who's always messing with Earl. And that time, Earl. Well, I'm sorry. I should reverse it. Earl's always messing with him.
Okay, there you go. That sounds like it. Yeah.
I mean, he's always getting under our friend's skin. I mean, Earl irritates him all the time. And just so happened, Earl happened to be sick this day. And Lord, my friend felt like this was the opportunity to get Earl back. And boy, he got Earl from the moment Earl woke up, and Earl was sick, really sick. From the moment he woke up, I mean, he just rode Earl the entire time. And I never seen Big Twirl frustrated. He's always joyful, always in a great mindset, all in a good mood. This day, I thought he was going to fight my guy. He was, and my guy's not as big as me, so Earl towers over him.
Yeah.
He really got under Earl's skin that day, and it really pissed him off. And never seen him that upset. But those are the things that we love about him, because he was such a joyful young human being so big. He was just like a gentle giant, and he just had such a beautiful soul with his people he left behind, with his daughter Suri and Judith. I mean, as you can see where it stems from.
Oh yeah. I thought his daughter did a phenomenal job at his funeral. I don't know how she was so strong and brave, and she just shined right through. But it was awesome.
Yeah.
Would you say braver than you?
She was much braver than I was up there.
Oh,
So much in control, emotions in control. And I was up there like a little kid, with snot coming out my nose because I couldn't control it. But I was just in awe of the way she handled the whole situation.
Yeah, she was great. And I tell you, I think we were all sitting there, stiff upper lip. We're, getting through it. We were fine. And then you got up there and started talking. It was all over. It was all bowed heads, right? Wiping our noses. We're like, come on, Muggsy, what the? But yeah,
I know it. And that wasn't my intent. That definitely wasn't my intent. But again, that's what he brought out of me.
Yeah. It's awesome to see. But yeah, he'll be remembered and loved. I tell you, he's a 6'9" teddy bear, big heart, right? And his legacy, I tell you, anytime that we're talking about like a nonprofit, we're talking about what we're doing, it's just, I can hear his words echo, right, about the passion and what we're doing for the kids and how we have to leave that legacy for the kids and really show them how to live and be proper humans. And it was just awesome.
Yeah,
just so great.
He was so dedicated to that part of his life, trying to get back, trying to make sure that the kids understood the importance of following your dreams and being such a good citizen, doing what you're supposed to do, understanding right from wrong. I mean, he was really an advocate of that, and he, like I say, he lent his time in so many places because of the heart that he had, and he had a big one,
Yeah.
enormous one, I should say.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I love it. And Muggsy, I appreciate you being on here and, really talking about him. We're going to put together this little tribute for him in preparation for his birthday on September 3rd. But yeah, he deserves it. I would love to do it every year. We would just kind of remember Earl. And, we're going to have at some of our events, we're going to have the Earl Cureton Award, right? The twirl. That'll go out to maybe those that are, the most passionate about what they're doing, best teammate, best something, right? I'm going to carry that halo around. Yeah.
I mean, I know that we were all so shocked when we found out that he had passed, and it really put into perspective, what does a legacy mean? What impact do I hope to leave behind? And, having people, everyone that we've talked to, there's not a person who has met Earl, maybe besides that one buddy during that trip, or the other way around, Earl with him.
Yeah,
But, instantly you could see that joy, that love, that compassion pouring out of him. And, it really inspires not just me, but I'm pretty sure everyone that was lucky enough to have him in their life to want to continue that in his honor, to say, like, this doesn't end with you. It just begins, in a kind of a different perspective of everything. But I had to laugh on that flight that we were on. Of course, he had like an aisle seat to try and stretch his legs out. But in the beginning, he was seated next to two people that had a huge, probably 85-pound lab of a service dog with them. And just seeing how that space was, as soon as he walked up to the flight attendant and she kind of looked at him and then looked at that, she's like, let me find you another place to sit. Like, we're going to give you, the exit out something, because you're going to have to like do some origami with your legs to try to fit into the spot with this big dog. But
that's great. But yeah, Muggsy, you're continuing on this legacy, right, through your family foundation, your passion for the community.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm trying to continue my part as well. Our mission is to provide service to the youth, to the underserved community, and their families to live the best quality lives through food insecurities, workforce development, and education. So, trying to provide that type of service for them and give them a platform where they can be the best version of themselves. I'm all in, and we did a great job and partnered with a local community college here who oversees our scholarship program for these kids that have an ambition to go to school without, you know, having so much of a burden on them and financially. So this is amazing. A lot of kids like to work with them hands still. So giving them opportunity to be able to work with their hands and have a means to provide for them as well as their family. This is something that we're really dedicated towards. So I'm thankful that I have the partners and the people in the team behind me to make it all possible.
Well, good people tend to find good people, right? So I think if that foundation's doing really well, if the college is doing really well with the scholarship, right, and they're good people, that's because they found you and you found them as well, which is great, right? That's how it's going to be. Good people help each other be better.
Absolutely, it's a village.
Yeah, it's village, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well, I wish I could say it as eloquently as Earl did, but especially when talking about St. Cecilia's and that impact, he was saying no one denies the benefit of having these in their community, what it does for the youth, but they need that door has to be there for them to be able to walk through and to help remove those barriers, so that, you're going to spend your time doing something, so we might as well do it constructively and learn those skills and take it into your adulthood so that you can impact others just the way Earl has impacted all of us.
Absolutely, it's all about serving.
Yep, I love it. Well, that's great. Well, Muggsy, appreciate the time today. It's been awesome. Always great to talk to somebody who's an NBA veteran, right? Blocking Patrick Ewing, always a pleasure.
Days.
Yeah. Can we add to your resume? Can we call you a movie star as well?
Oh man, you call me a cameo appearance man.
Hey, all right. Hey, you know, I loved your bit when you were on the Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh yeah, we had
That
we had I had a blast on that show.
yeah, I was looking, going, oh, Muggsy's about to kick some ass. What's going on?
Yeah, they ain't had no business doing what they was doing. They ain't had no business doing what they was doing.
Yeah, it's a funny show. It's great. Good to see you on it. But man, that's awesome. Any plans? Any upcoming things you're going to be in?
Well, I'm working on some of my own project right now, and
Ooh,
yeah, so hopefully we got the documentary that's out there, been out there for a minute. So
good.
we're working on something that possibly could be in on the big screen. We'll see.
That's awesome.
Incredible. Muggsy, it was so great to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us in our special tribute to Earl. And Mark, can you think of any other teammates that might want to say a word about our dear friend?
You know what? I'll tell you, in the Detroit area, East Coast, right? Especially Syracuse fans, right? Love Derrick Coleman, good old DC. He is a gentle giant. He is a guy who on the court, oh, he destroyed a lot of people. He'd, he'd smash him with some nasty dunks coming up left-handed on him. But I'll tell you, he's a guy who does so much for the community. He's a St. Cecilia's guy as well, right? Proved himself there. Big powerhouse, but he's doing a lot for kids these days through his AAU programs. You know, he's a guy who I'm sure you'll see some Derrick Coleman facilities here around the Detroit area, but I know he's got he's done already so much and wants to do so much more. But I know Derrick wants to come on and say a few words about Earl as well.
All right, DC, thank you so much for joining us in our tribute to Earl today. And first things first, are there any stories that come to mind when you think of Earl?
It's so many stories that come to mind. Think about, Earl. What you guys don't understand, Earl Cureton has always been our big brother. Being from the city of Detroit and being, raised here, he's always taken all of us under, his wings growing up playing basketball. And I just like to share my experiences with Earl because, again, when you talk about basketball, for us growing up, it was more than about basketball, being in the gym with those guys. We had the opportunity growing up to play against, professional guys being here in Detroit. So you would have Earl Cureton, John Long, Isaiah Thomas, Rick Mahorn. I mean, all the Piston guys in the gym in the summertime. And at the time, I mean, I'm a kid. I'm still in high school, getting the opportunity to play. I mean, all the college guys, Roy Tarpley, Antoine Jobert, Richard Welford. I mean, you name all the guys from Michigan, Michigan State, Vernon Carr. You got a gym full of potential pro athletes, from college, and the pro guys are there playing. And I remember playing against Earl at this place we used to play at called the Belmont, which is right at Woodward and Belmont with a huge Catholic church. And they blocking the street off now. But if you go back, there's a little small gym, no windows or anything in there. It's probably 110 degrees, in there in the gym when we're playing. And again, I get picked, what I'm saying, to come and play. And I'm playing against, Earl. So, I make a shot and he looks at me, you know what I'm saying? And I'm a confident kid, you know what I'm saying? So I start shaking my head, like, yeah, yeah, like I'm ready, And man, they must have gave him the ball like 5, 6 times in a row. And I mean, he just killed me. He just punished me, you know what I'm saying? Every time. And every time he's running back, he's like, yeah, young fella. Yeah, young okay. But the most important part about it, like I said, just getting the opportunity to sit outside on the steps and listen to these guys give us this knowledge about not just the game of basketball, but about the game of life. I would say that was always the most important part, to sit outside and, talk with Earl and Rick and Joe and Isaiah, all these guys that's at the level where we're trying to actually get to, and to hear, real stories from them, what to do, what not to do, or whatever have you. I mean, I think that was the most important part. And then for myself, being able to retire from basketball and get really engaged and involved in community stuff, and seeing Earl and everything that he was doing and being able, you know what I'm saying, to really help in any situation that he was engaged and involved in. And then that made us even form our own Legends of Basketball group here with all the retired NBA players. So he was a part of that, as well as all the stuff that he did, I'm saying, with the Pistons, with the community stuff, and being able to go to the basketball games. Earl, if I come to the game and me and him are just sitting there talking, he's going to take me to everybody's suite. You know what I'm saying? With him, like, come on, walk with me for a minute. I'm like, walk with you? What? You got me in the game going on? Man, we catch up with the game. You see enough basketball. The corporate suites, a lot of times with him just to meet people, because he was such a people person. I think that's one of the things that we'll miss about him the most, because he shared so much of himself, with everybody.
Yeah, and something too that seemed to resonate with both of you, and let me know if you guys just share this or if you kind of heard him as you're sitting on the stairs of St. Cecilia's talking. But at what point did you realize, like, this is a guy who really gives back to his community? I want to be that guy too.
No, I've always seen it.
Yeah.
I just think a lot of us being raised, from that Southern background, that it's just in our DNA and who we are
Yeah.
as a person. So again, me growing up and seeing Earl, all the stuff that he was doing, even and we even talk about, at the University of Detroit, the stuff that he would do over there. Like, we would host camps and clinics at the University of Detroit for all the kids in the neighborhoods and stuff. And then he would do radio, there as well. So seeing that again, being able to sit back, and if you don't have, like, when I look at life, I look at exposure, right? Like, the basketball is the carrot that we all dangle, no matter what kind of ball it is. But you get an opportunity to have real conversations,
Yeah.
not just about the sport, but about life, and to watch a person's actions. And Earl, for me, has always been an action guy. And seeing him giving back the way he did and trying to help that next gen. I was that next generation.
Yeah.
I remember Earl bringing me gym shoes because my feet were so big, and every age that I turned, I wore, 13, I wore 13.
Yeah.
14, I wore 14. 15, I wore. So I remember Earl, like, I got some shoes for you, young fella, you know what I'm saying? And bringing me just that part of the stuff that you guys would never know and see
Yeah.
in this whole relationship through the game of basketball. And like I said, he was always all of our big brother, and no matter what we do. So anytime that he would reach out to any of us, we're coming to support him, to help him. When he was on his campaign for the whole thing at St. Cecilia,
Yeah.
he's like, hey man, I need your help. I need you to come over here. What you need? Me, Dave Bean, John Long,
Yeah.
Grant Long, everybody, would just, okay, bro, we're here, to help. So I think the giving part of it, like you said, is something that we witnessed and saw up close and personal. And it also instilled that in us growing up and being that next generation
Oh
behind it.
yeah. I
Yeah.
love it. And he'd stick up for you too, right? When you're out on the court playing, right? But tell us the story of Isaiah Thomas starting to talk a little trash and what he said about you.
Oh, again, we're growing up now. So I'm knowing Earl since high school, and then I'm coming back home in the summertime. So I'm playing in college. So we would always play the championships at St. Cecilia. But see, it used to be, and actually it used to be Labor Day weekend out in River Rouge. It was called Rouge Days. So me and Steve Smith and a bunch of the younger guys are coming up. We're playing against Earl, Isaiah,
Yeah.
all these guys. You know what I'm saying? So we're in the championship out at River Rouge, and we're going back and forth. I mean, the game is tight. We're going back and forth. So everybody's talking smack. That's just basketball. So Isaiah says, I don't even remember what he says to me, and it just clicked with me. I'm like, yo, look, you think you talking? So me and him got to, going back and forth, and Earl was like, yo, wait, let me tell you something.
Yeah.
my homeboy. You know? Yeah, I might be playing with y'all, but that's my homeboy. Leave him alone, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all in fun, man.
I love it.
Oh yeah,
Big brother right there for you.
always
I
been
love it.
brother, man. It's amazing, and we grow up being that way. You know, at one point in time, you got to think in the '80s, Michigan dominated college basketball.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then in the '90s, we dominated the NBA. Like every time that I walked on the court, I was pretty much saying "What up, though" to one of my homeboys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
Yep.
Almost on every team. Sometimes it'll be 3, 4 guys on one team. Like I remember playing against Miami. It was Steve Smith, Willie Burton, um, Grant Long,
Yep.
and Glenn Rice. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we've always dominated the sport, and we've always again being big brother, looking out for each other.
And you know what? We just love that we're here for Earl, that we can remember him with good friends, and he's
Yeah.
a good man. And I'll tell you, I think no matter what we're doing, we got to figure out how to get the Earl Cureton Award in there for some of these kids.
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm glad you said that. That's going to make me even look at changing, awards and stuff that I give out
Yeah.
for our kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Community Assist Award, something. Yeah, because he is a pillar of our community
Yeah.
and everything that he's done. Again, like I said, when I think about Earl, he always helping.
Always. Yep.
Yeah.
That's in his nature. That was his first thing. How can I help? What can I do? Right.
Yeah.
That's why when he calls and says, "Hey, I need your help with this," it doesn't matter what it is, where you're at. I'm there. What do you need?
I'm there.
Yep.
Exactly.
I love it. God bless him. I love it.
Thanks, DC. It is so great to hear one phenomenal man talking about another one and continuing to honor Earl, which is truly what this episode and what today is all about. It still doesn't seem real that you can't just pick up your phone and give him a call and see how he's doing, but I absolutely feel like his presence is still felt and will continue to be felt, because you can't live a life that grand and not leave part of your heart behind, even if your body is no longer there. And that's something that I truly believe. And he serves as motivation for me as well, because I mean I might not have a NBA career in my background.
Wait, you don't? Are you sure?
I know it's the most shocking thing, but even though I don't have that background, I still felt like he was, we were on the same team. We were
Mhm.
working towards the same goal. We were still in. That is something. So, I might not have been a teammate on the court with him, but I absolutely felt like I was a teammate of his that was helping to get this huge idea, these wonderful projects off the ground. And that is something that I will always carry with me.
Well, you guys, appreciate it. Love hearing these stories about Earl and really sharing with each other. I think we're going to continue with that commitment Earl has to the community and that legacy that he's left for us and continues to live on. And appreciate all of you, and hope you guys enjoyed this. And I'll tell you, if you guys get a chance, check out Earl's book, Earl the Twirl: My Life in Basketball. It is a great book full of great stories, but you'll get to know when we talk about the man he is and we talk about kind of the loving person he is, the friend he is, you get that really clearly in this book from, Julius Irving and Muggsy Bogues and, everybody else who chimed in for it. And it's just phenomenal. So you guys appreciate the time today, and thanks for sharing this with us.
Yes, and like we said earlier, check out the description from this episode to learn how you can win a copy of Earl's book. And also, if you have had an experience with Earl, whether it was, have you played with him? Were you at a camp that he was at? Please share in the comments below. I don't think that, there's so many stories to be told, and I have no doubt that all of them are going to be positive, and we would we
Yeah.
would love to hear from you. So please leave a comment below, whether you are listening on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you might be listening.
Yeah.
So thank you again so much to Kurt David, to Muggsy Bogues, to Derrick Coleman, good old DC, and of course also to you, as Mark, for sharing your stories about how Earl has impacted your life and the positivity that he has and will always continue to bring into our community. So
All right.
thank you so much for joining us today, and we will catch you soon.